Hi, this is Iadania, Nia's Divine Garden, and I'm back for the third time. We're doing work on my cable internet. This is my third time doing this because it keeps stopping in the midst of our recording. But I'm still going to get this done today. Um, so welcome to Nia's Divine Garden. If you're new here, I hope that you hear something that inspires, empowers, and encourages you. I hope that you'll choose to stay, subscribe, turning on notifications. So excuse my voice because I am dealing with a cold. All of us are dealing with a cold. So I'm also momming at the moment too. So I'm multitasking. It's a lot going on today, but this is like I need to do this today. So I'm going to do this today. Um, Part of this was inspired. So there's a few things I've written down here, my handy dandy notebook. But part of this was inspired by a TikTok video from someone, and the creator was talking about um, this conflict in the diaspora between the diaspora and the mother continent. So there, and actually that just triggered something else. Um, Sorry, it's going to be a talk. It's just going to be a talk. Stream of consciousness, however, it's going to come. I just listened this morning as things and just started to. So, so where was I? Intros. Yes. So, a video regarding the diaspora in Africa and the way they describe it. And if I can, I'll link it in the description box of this video. But all of these tribes standing in a circle and they're arguing, they're just bickering. It is just incessant, unnecessary bickering. So the bickering is happening, but there's still someone in the middle. So all the bickering is happening on the outside, and all of them are in rainbow colors. The person in the middle is in white. So there's clarity there. They're not aligned to anyone. So they're trying to talk to everyone, though, and no one's listening. They're not listening to each other. They're not listening to the person in the middle. No, they're not listening to anyone. And I was like, wow, that resonated so much in the way that I have been seeing things. And I'm just like, okay, I want to like chime in on this as well. Um, so before I get started, let me like people who are new, and maybe you're old and you just haven't seen a full like thing. So my name is Dania. Ia Dania. I okay. My internet was down, and yeah, isn't it interesting day. All right. So again, I'm Iadania. Um, I am initiated as Ianifa, Dania Fa'omi Shambo. I am initiated and crowned through Isheshe, what some call traditional Ifa. And I was crowned here in the diaspora of the United States. My Ialode is here. Um, we don't live in the same state, but she is here in on this continent with me. Um, I so I'm for those that um, don't know Yoruba, I am crowned Yemoja Shango. Um, I do have both hands and some others feathers. Um, and yeah, I am trained on probably every form of Ifa's divination, various divination systems from Okwele, Ikin, Miridelagun, Obi. Yes. So in case it comes up, questions come, because they will, because I have such beautiful and we'll talk about that. But I wanted to share that. Um, you see the gap. So there is Nigerian in my heritage. I won't say Yoruba specifically, even though I have chosen to explore Orisha tradition. I don't know the actual tribe of my lineage. I just know that I am 51% Nigerian. Yeah, 51%. Like I'm over half Nigerian. Um, but every time I meet somebody that's specifically Yoruba, they're like, so it's always cute. It's always funny to me. More than one person sent me pictures like, you look like my mom. So it's always cute and funny to me how much of that is present. But since I'm over half, it makes a lot of sense. But I also have lineage in the Congo and Benin and Congo and Mbuti and Wasan. Like I have a like 90, I'm like 90%, something from the African um, part of my ancestry. And I also have Indigenous American, Irish. I have a multitude, even though I am mostly of African heritage. So I wanted to share that because that kind of will kind of color some of the story, how I'm going to talk about this in the journey. So think about the diaspora, alleged, you know, not allegedly, but a diaspora versus Africa. And I think a lot of this comes to tradition and how people do things. And what I said in my first incarnation of this video was that people are missing the roots. They don't realize the roots of these people's traditions and their spiritual trees are the same. Their tree is growing from the same exact root system as this person's tree is growing from the same person's root system. But because the fruit looks different, it's a different color fruit. It tastes a little different. It it digests differently. They don't realize they're still getting the same nourishment. They're still getting the same nutrition from this tree. And with African traditional, and I'm using the word religion, and it is a religion by definition of what religion doesn't mean dogma. Some religions that are organized are dogmatic, but religion itself does not mean dogma. It doesn't mean that at all. Religion itself is simply a personal set or a group's set or system of attitudes, beliefs, and practices. It's the service and the worship of God or the supernatural. It's the commitment. It's a commitment to a practice of some sort that's related to something spiritual. So it's the faith and it's the observance. When you think about it, just that, every spiritual person is religious. Every spiritual person is religious, but there is a trauma associated with the organized religions from which they either grew up in or around. And so attaching themselves to that word is just not where they're at. If you ask me today, I am religious. I'm absolutely religious. I have a multitude of religions. I'm very much religious because I have a personal set of beliefs, traditions, rituals that I associated with. I'm also spiritual because I am connected to my own personal spirit, the unseen, which at bare minimum, the most high is is the seen and the unseen. So yes, I'm a mystic because I don't subscribe to that. There's only one way to find the most high. There's a multitude of mystical ways to come in contact with the source. And that is the point of this. Is that the fact that I'm going to use Ifa specifically. Voodoo has a similar child child system. Voodoo is the mother. And then you've got Haitian voodoo, you've got New Orleans voodoo, you have Mary Laveau voodoo, you have all these other versions of voodoo that are the children of voodoo. So, and these children still hold the same DNA as their mother. They still hold the same roots. They have simply, as children are supposed to, grown and evolved into their own systems. It does not take the nature and the spirit away from it. Ifa is the same way. Isheshe is the same way. Isheshe is a mother. She's a mother. And Lakumi, Santeria, Candomblé, the cult of Shango. I don't know its official name, so I'm not going to butcher it, but I know there's just a cult of Shango. Um, uh, all of these have are, and even the way Isheshe looks in the diaspora as opposed to the way Isheshe looks in Nigeria, in Yoruba land, may be different. But the mother of these faiths is still the same parent. It's still the same parent. And with these being oral traditions, it's like a phone tree. It's like a phone tree. You can hear the same story a multitude of times. And even though the lesson in the story is the same, the names, the places may be different. It doesn't negate the efficacy of the story. Is it effective? Does it give you the medicine that you need? And that's the thing. The evolution of a spiritual practice, of a religious practice, comes about because the medicine needed for that time, for that life, for that people that it's coming to needs to be effective for them. What was effective for your grandmother may not be effective for you because your DNA has shifted. You're not simply your grandmother's DNA. You are your grandmother on both sides. There is a mixture, and so the medicine has to be different. The medicine has to be different. Nuances of the medicine will always be the same, but the way that medicine needs to come to you may be completely different. That doesn't negate the fact that it is effective medicine. It is doing what it's supposed to do, which is aligning you and your ori to your destiny and having you walk as your favorite self, higher self for those of you that like the higher self term. So busy saying, oh, well, they didn't crown like this or this didn't look like this. When you are, here we go. There isn't a single priest of Shango that ain't recognized Shango. Not one. And I bet you all of our initiations were different. And the expression of Shango is different. But I always draw an almost Shango to me. Always. Always. I will run, if I run into somebody initiated, almost always they're a Yemoja, Oshun, or Shango. And I'm not even crowned Oshun. I'm not even crowned Oshun. Oshun comes through in a specific energy that I'm crowned with. And because she is aligned to one side of my family. She is the Orisha of one of my parents' lineage. So that's the other connection that we have. And then I am a womb holder. So there's an inherent connection there. But just because our initiations look different, we had different elders, doesn't negate the effectiveness of how we each received the medicine we needed at that time in order to receive that deeper connection to Shango. And I use that terminology specifically because Orisha is the consciousness of the creator in nature. So instead of saying, oh, that wind is blowing, they may be saying like Oya is speaking. Because Oya is the consciousness of the creator that is the wind, that is also the breath, the air that moves through our lungs. We are nature, all of nature compartmentalized into this vessel. Fire, water, all of these things, ether, all of this is compartmentalized in each of us. Why? Because we are each the Most High. So, of course, we have the consciousness of nature in us too. What initiation and crowning does in going through those processes, like I did this in my podcast, and I did it related to Naruto, the 9 gates. In Naruto, there's a process that that the chakra energy is moving, that all of that energy is moving to them. And they learn how to focus that energy. So the energy is always present, just like it's always present in us. Our ashe is always present. But it's passing through, let's say, gates, passing through gates. And there may be a reason why this gate is only naturally open this much. And so that's how much of that flow it can take, because it's only open so much. There's also only so much of it comes through. But you may only need that much to come through. Whereas someone else, I'll use myself for example, I might need my gate a little bit more open. I might need my Shango gate to be a bit more open so that I can allow the most effective expression of that energy as it relates to my destiny to show up and show forth. That is what crowning and initiation does. It takes that gate that may only just be open because the energy was always present. I know Shango's energy was always present because someone was always telling it to me. Shango's energy was always present because Shango was related to the planet Uranus. It's a sign of Aquarius. I am an Aquarius sun, Mars, and Mercury, and no one could ever deny, other than the fact that I'm emotional, that I am an Aquarius. Shango's energy has always been present, always been present. But how close I was and how comfortable I was in that energy was not always present. I needed the gate wide open. And that's what crowning does. That's what crowning does. And so it's not that the energy is not there, that the ashe is, but there is a deeper connection to that ashe because you're only getting this like trickle, you're getting a sample of it. You're getting just enough for where you are in that moment in your life. Not everyone is meant to initiate a crown because you may not be meant to open up that gate. Not be meant to it. And that's why, like in traditional Isheshe, you don't necessarily get warriors. It's not that it doesn't happen at all, but it's not like everybody gets warriors, blah blah, or everybody receives like in some traditions, like everybody receives these perks, the 7 African powers. Everybody receives those eleges. And that's not the case in Isheshe. You get the medicine that you need for where you are in your destiny in that moment. And that's all the medicine that you get. You may have to come back and get additional medicine. You may have to go back to the mat a few times, and that's okay. But in that moment, what you're getting is the medicine that you need in that moment as it aligns to your destiny. It doesn't mean there's something wrong because someone went to a different path and they got the 7 powers. When I thought about that this morning, what came through to me was thinking about how hoodoo came about out of necessity. It was, we are in this place And we need a way to stay connected to our heritage. And hoodoo looks the way that it looks because hoodoo is an amalgamage of various traditions. You will see things that are very much reminiscent of Isheshe. You will see things that are very much reminiscent of voodoo. You may see things that are very much reminiscent of other religions, Native American practices. It's it's like what's going to work for us right now to help us overcome and get through what we're going through right now. That is why it is an African American tradition. It is ours because it came from our resiliency, it came from our tenacity, our creativity, our innovation. Voodoo is a symbol of innovation. It is like, and it is it's an ode to the fact that all of these things, all of these traditions have the same goal. In order for you to have taken nuances of all of these traditions and made a whole new tradition that is so strong, so powerful, and so effective says that all of these traditions are tapping into similar energies with different names, and they're similar, just telling the same story with different words. And they were able to say, oh, this sounds like, yeah, we do this a little bit like this. Well, let's look together and see what is something here similar to what we had at home. We don't have what we had in Africa. We don't have what we had in Africa. So what do we have here? What do we have here that we can use and still be just as effective? Our ashe is still our ashe. The words, the language is not what simply gives us our ashe. Our ori is what gives us our ashe. If I say this prayer in Yoruba, or if I say it in English, guess what? I still said the prayer. And so there's this notion that when I think about the traditions that say you need to receive the seven African powers, in that time when this tradition was created, and it was so far away from home, we need the most potent of medicines to ensure our connection. We need the most potent of medicines to ensure our connection. So it has to be this way. For the traditions that say, you know, women are not priests, it makes sense. If they were created in colonies that were especially very much Catholic and Catholicism does not have women priests, it would make sense that the version of the child of Isheshe that was born in those places would not have women priests. That doesn't mean that they are wrong or that's just where they grew up. That's just where that kid grew up. And that child can decide one day, you know what? I'm going to do something different. And that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to grow and it is supposed to evolve and it is supposed to be nuanced and you special and unique because everyone's connection to source is special and unique. When you get past it, are these people living? I'm going to use Yoruba in Iwa Pele, good character. Are they walking in alignment with their destiny? Can you feel the ashe when you're in their presence that is light and love? Can you feel that? Because if you can, what are they doing wrong? They're different. Different does not make it wrong. It makes it different. Those two words are not synonyms. Is it effective? Because if it's effective, That's what matters. Is it effective? In every elder I've ever heard speak, in every book I've ever listened to or read, one thing has always been consistent. It is not the way, it is a way, and the only thing that matters is it effective? So this battle doesn't need to be had. And even the level of, do you need to have a conversation? It's not that you need to have a conversation. It's like you need to have a respect. It's simply a way. Don't do your ritual that way. That's easy. Don't do your ritual that way. Encourage those who are trying to come home and find which fruit from these trees they should be eating. Encourage them to consult of their head. Remind yourselves of the foundation, the roots that is consistent in almost every traditional African practice. You, in your connection to the Most High, is the most important. Understanding and loving and learning yourself is the foundation. When you begin to understand and learn and love yourself, then you draw in your ancestors because they are also part of you. That keeps building on the foundation. When you are solid in that and you are trusting in your intuition, it then becomes easy and effortless to understand which fruit from the Isheshe's tree. Is it Isheshe fruit? Is it Santeria fruit? Is it Lekumi fruit? Is it Candomblé fruit? Is it some other tree? Do you need to go to a voodoo tree and eat of their fruit? You will know because your connection to who you truly are and who your ancestors were will scream loudly and it will attract it to you. You won't have to find the fruit will come to you. I personally kept getting messages about getting an elder. And my journey with Ifa is interesting because after astrology and numerology, I often tell people Orisha was the very next thing that showed up. And it never felt unnatural. It was just like, why does this feel so familiar? And it just felt like so familiar. Like one of the first dreams I had was so early. It was well before I even thought I was going to initiate. And I'm just in this like, it was brown. So think about a saloon, but it's full of Orisha. That's the best way to describe it. If you could picture a saloon full of Orishas, just walking around, working, that's what it was. A saloon full of Orisha. And I'm just walking by and I'm seeing like everyone. And I'm just like, I mean, I just remember waking up like, but I still did not have an intention or anything of initiating because what I perceived with me is like I would have to be limited in this way. And I didn't want to be limited. I had already been limited, and that's not what I was looking for. Knowing now that's not the case, because obviously I'm not. But that's where I was. But I was still anxious to learn. So I was listening or reading audio, either listening to an audiobook or reading books, kind of seeing what I saw in terms of videos and things like that. And I got the Orisha, the specifically the Patakis of the Orisha tarot deck. And that helped, like, I didn't realize how much that actually helped me understand Odu because I was like, I know this one, I know this story, or I know that story. Oh, because they have Patakis in the book. So then I was able to put the Odu that most related to that Pataki together, and it was just, and that's how when you are in alignment resources and things start to come your way. The first EFI reading I ever received, I'm pretty sure he was probably Lakumi or Santeria. I'm gonna say Lakumi because he didn't use the names of saints it to refer to the Orisha or anything like that. And so I was like, okay. And but he used the terminology of having a head Orisha, which is very much like reminiscent of a diaspora. And so I was like, okay. And it wasn't until I got to traditional I realized my Ori is my head Orisha. And the Orishas ain't battling for supremacy. Whoever needs to step up will. And yeah, I can tell like whoever needs to step up will show up like out. Like I did a ritual for someone, and I'm not even Ogun is close, but I'm not crowned Ogun. But Ogun came through like, hey, hi, I was good. I'm here. I'm here to help. I'm like, oh. Like I didn't even like, yeah, okay, got it. So in that journey, it kept saying, you need an elder, you need an elder, you need an elder. And I'm like, okay, I need an elder. So every time I felt like I was getting close to one, it was like, it wasn't there. And when I first saw my ELO day, I was like, oh my God, I love her. Oh my God, I love her. Like that was the first feeling is, oh my God, I love her. And so I was gifted a reading from her. And it was, I'll be honest, like I just knew because she does not play. It's not a game for her. And I could feel how not simply just how powerful she was, but how genuine she was always. And it was just the most beautiful reading. Like absolutely the most beautiful reading. And what she said to me, it was like you were already living E5. Like you're already walking with EY Pele. You're already doing the work. And I can't tell you how much that meant to me because I just felt like I was floundering at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just honestly just following my intuition and doing what felt natural to me. I didn't realize, you know, I did, but I didn't. Like I had been honoring my Ori for almost a year by the time I met. Every morning, I had found something where they had a prayer. And then I realized later, once I started to learn it in Yoruba, I've been saying that prayer every day, just in English. And that's why I said, you make such a big deal about the language as if your ashe is going to shift, that you no longer have the same ashe. I've been saying that same prayer, venerating and honoring my Ori every day, every day, every morning in English, just as effective. And I was just like, your light is your light, period. Like to the light is the light, period. Period. Yeah, there are things that can't be quite translated from one language to the other. Okay, then that's when you use those words in their language. That's why you use those words in that language. But to say that these people, this is not a shot, but it's the best example I have, and it's how it's come through. You sound Christian. That's what you sound like. You sound Christian. When Christians say there's only but one way to get to God, there's only one way. There's literally only one way, and that God is a He. When you say there's only one way to pray and there's only one language you should pray in, that's how you sound. Because essentially you're saying the creator of all only has an Obama phone with really bad signal It can only hear you when you're standing in a certain place holding it one. Like, what? Please stop. You're all, if you're walking with Iwa Pele and honoring how the tradition comes to you and how it's unfolding and manifesting for you, you are all honoring Olodumare, all to your ancestors. Honor your Ori. You're all doing that. You're just simply doing it in different ways. Even the people who are not practicing a, either a traditional African practice or a derived African practice. You can only honor your ancestors. No, you are the altar to the divine. Before you pull up any other external structure, the altar is always you. And if you sit and you close your eyes, or you play some music, or you walk, or whatever you feel like you need to do to talk to your ancestors, know that they will hear you. Just because it doesn't come through you the same way it comes through them doesn't make your connection any less pure, true, and honest. My oneness with spirit don't look like other people's oneness with spirit. Other people be pieced out, gone. I'm never truly pieced out. I may not remember what I say in a reading, but in the moment, I am always ever present. It's just two of us sitting here, like now, just two of us, or however many. It's just me and a bunch of heads. Like, you do want to visualize it that way, it's just me with a lot of heads. Does it make my blending of spirit any more or less pure than someone who that just is completely gone? It's just how mine manifests. That's how mine shows up. Just because I think someone's like, they don't wear white all the time. And I wear white more, a lot more. I won't say I don't wear, I wear a lot of white, a lot more. And a lot of that also has to do with the colors, the colors that are taboo for me to wear in abundance are colors I like to wear often. So I'm like learning how to wear other colors still. So it's just easy for me, like I'm just gonna do white. It's just an ease thing. But did I have to spend a year in white? No, because that's a diaspora thing. That's not every tradition. Every tradition does not require you spend a year in white. Is it a great practice, discipline? Yes. And at the time it was created, that medicine is what was needed. The medicine needed. Someone might need that medicine, and that's why they go to that tradition. They need to have to wear white for a year. They need that. That is what's in alignment with the Ori. They need that medicine. I never went to that tradition because I didn't need that medicine. I need days in white, yes, and that's why I have that. Every once in a while, I need days in white. There are days where even if I'm not leaving the house, I have white lounge clothes. Because sometimes I need days in white, but I don't need a year in white. Now, if it comes up later, okay, I'll shave. Universal move so I can buy more white clothes. And that way I don't have to wash the same thing over and over again because then it just won't be white. Hair. Everybody's like, but you didn't shave your head. I sure didn't. And what you don't realize is that my coming to Orisha was likely a result of me locking my hair. It was part of the catalyzing. It was a physical expression of the awakening journey that I was beginning because it all happened within, like, it was right in the same window of time. I had already started like dibbling and dabbling in crystals leading up to me deciding to lock my hair. And I was like looking at the straw, I had gotten back into astrology and everything. But once I put them 2-strand twist in my hair. I said, okay, I'm gonna lock my hair. Oh, that's when it just, and I divined on it multiple times leading to initiation. Am I gonna have to shave my hair? Because I was trying to get mentally in. And when I talked about ELO day, unless your ancestors call for it, or you feel like you need it, no. And so I did not. They are so heavily attached to my spiritual walk. When I visualize myself as an elder, she looked like Storm. So long, long ass gray white locks, a side shade. I'm like, okay, then TT, yeah, yeah. I already was saying like these, like I got a little bit more gray to go before I y'all call me Storm. I'm just gonna die of all gray. Yeah. So, but it the doesn't change anything at all. I just have hair. That's it. I have hair. I have hair. That's it. I have to I'll get that nudge a few times where it's like, okay, clean your locks. And so I'll make sure my locks stay clean and things like that. But and even if it's not like a full ritualized head cleansing, I will spiritually wash my locks. And speaking of spiritual washes, like so it was so shady. I was just like, oh, this is what we doing? Like the shaded on pretty spiritual baths. And I'm just like, why would you do that? Understand that plants, herbs, flowers, and things used in these washes was also very much specific to where people were and are. The fact that someone wants a flower in their bath, you don't know unless you've talked to them why they want it. Roses in particular are exceptionally powerful. They are powerful plants. From its thorny stems to its soft petals, powerful plants. And it's pretty. It's powerful and it's pretty. Just because something is pretty doesn't make it not powerful. Let's take those shoes right there. Yeah, well, child. Look, pretty, pretty, being powerful. So let as long as they are using the herbs and things that speak to the need, what it looks like is irrelevant. Is it effective? Roses are love, both for someone else and yourself. They are also personal power. What is your personal power? It is your ashe. So including something that charges, and they're protective. Thorns, they are also protective. This is why so many people include them in a lot of their washes. Not simply because they're pretty, it's because they're fucking effective. Um, I think I did evolution in tradition, ATR children and ritual. Yeah. So this is something I was gonna be like when I was thinking about the bickering. It's like think about like a divorce, family separating. The descendants in the diaspora are the children that they couldn't stay with mom. They couldn't stay with mom. And they also didn't get to stay with dad. They didn't get to stay with mom or dad. So they got thrown in the foster care system. And the foster care system is broken. And kids in the foster care system get lost, they get thrown away, they get scattered. That is the diaspora. And the children in diaspora looking over there like, but you got to stay with mom or you got to stay with dad. You had mom or dad. You were right there with one of your parents and we weren't. Why are you getting it? Like, and the ones in Africa are like, but we had a horrible step parent. Our step parents sucked. So it's like, okay, we were all traumatized. All the trauma different. It's not a trauma contest. This ain't no contest. Yo, did you have such and such happen? Did they peel your toe? Like, no, stop that. That's ridiculous. It's what they want. The mission of the colonizers was to separate and disempower and enslave. Whether they literally put you in a field or they came into your homeland and stripped you of the culture, sitting you right there on the land the culture lives on. It was to separate, disempower, destabilize, and that's what it is. Understand that happened on whatever if you are Black, if you are children of the sun, melanated, that is what happens regardless of where you were. They came in, took your religion. And what's the most insidious thing about it is took your religion, took all of those teachings, whether it was Kemetic, Ifa, Voodoo, whatever it was, took all of your goodies, took took all of these things and said, hey, we can use this stuff. It was effective for them. And Ashe is just gonna work. If you are you know what you're doing, it's gonna work. And so they studied and paid attention. And like, okay, cool. Now that we've learned it, all of the other stuff is evil. You're not allowed to do it. It's illegal. While behind closed doors, especially if they had someone they pulled into the house. Hey, so and so sick. Do that thing that you do. What? You know what to do. Do it. Sick. I might give you an extra piece of bread or something. They understood. They understood exactly how manifestation worked. They understood that. They understood. How you know? Because how do you get an entire group of people that outnumber you to follow you? This isn't solely about language. This is not solely about language. There was something more powerful happening at work here. It's like, so someone said, like, why didn't the Orisha save the slaves? And it was like, what if they forgot the Orisha existed? They began to wake up on the boat. This is how the Orisha made it across. They had to wake up on the boat. And for the ones that were here, that's the other conversation. Because so many people are like, we weren't even over there. You sound ridiculous. And I'm gonna just go ahead and stay here. Apparently my throat chakra is doing a thing. And if it don't make sense, it's just not gonna make sense to me. You know there's Black people over there. You know there's Black people in Africa. You've seen them, you know they exist. You've met some of them that have immigrated over here. So you think you have no biological relation to someone off of the continent? Don't you look like them? And you're like, what were the original people? That means you would still, there's stuff. See, this is where being a medium And not simply going to your ancestors for, hey, can you help me get some money? This is where this comes into play. Hey, were any of you on this body of land that I'm on prior to slavery? Was it all of you? No. Some of you, yes. Some were absolutely here on this segment of the land pre-slavery. This is facts. This is facts. Whether that's the case for everyone's family, who knows? But I know in my family, part of my family was physically here on this continent prior to slavery. Whether they here and left or here and stayed, they were here, or if they were born here, they were here. I also have lineage that was absolutely on the part of the land that we now know as Africa. Whether they were here, whether they went there, they were there. I know this much because I know I have ancestors that remember what we know as Pangea. They indicated they were here before the split took place. So before the split, let me say that again. Before the split, when everybody's hanging out one big old landmass, they remember. Why is this important? Just imagine watching the land split and your family's on that other plot of land. Because for some, that's the way the story came. Like it's we were here, and when it split, part of us were on that side still. We were here, and part of us floated away, land split. Okay, bet. Some traded, came back and forth. I got that too. And whatever happened by way of drinking something, saying something that influenced behavior, whatever happened on the continent also happened here to anyone that was captured by colonizers and thus enslaved. It happened both. They needed to ensure that their slaves were amenable, docile, whatever terminology you want to use. So whatever happened there happened here. My mom used to put me on to lithium springs, and these things are rare but free. They're lithium springs. You drink enough lithium, just saying. So it's like, okay, so to deny the possibility that you have lineage that in Africa, and Africa still is the mother continent because the seeding spot, that's the thing. It's like, well, how? It's the seeding spot. It's the seeding spot. It's where the seeds were planted. Just because it moved doesn't mean that that segment of the landmass was not the seeding spot. It's the seeding spot. Like this is a seeding spot, and then it's gonna like whoosh. That's the seeding spot. It's like some of y'all gotta stay here. Some of y'all gotta stay over here. But don't deny your ancestors that made the journey across the ocean just because you want to prove some colonizers wrong. It's both. You have lineage that was here already, absolutely. But you absolutely have lineage that traveled over on those ships, and you need to give them respect. I thought it was going to come up, but yeah. Yeah. Um, there was a thought about greatness being stolen. And I thought about this and like, can you steal someone's greatness? Or can you re-invoke the veil of forgetfulness even thicker? So it's often said in many traditions that, you know, when we decide to incarnate into a physical vessel, there is a veil of forgetfulness that shrouds us from the realization of our full breadth of our being, which is why we can't fully realize what the source of all is. And since we are individualized aspects of the source of all, that is why we can't always see the fullness of who we are, even ourselves. It's us, but we still can't see the full version of ourselves. We can't see the multi-dimensional nature of our being in totality. And we forget why we come here. We forget what we're supposed to do. We forget what we're supposed to learn. We're learning it, relearning it, and the veil is thinning as we move and do certain things. But someone could fortify that veil. So your greatness is always still there. But the veil of forgetfulness becomes even ever more fortified to cloud and shroud the greatness within you. And that's why you do shadow work on your unconscious and subconscious, ensuring that the things that are in your unconscious that you would like to your subconscious to let through are ever prominent. And then you allow your subconscious to expand into the realm of your unconscious that has those beautiful things so that your conscious self will realize them. So, and it's interesting. I pulled the Odu, soon Od, which is the fulfillment of our ancestral lineage and rebirth. So it's like as we fulfill our ancestral lineage, that we reach our full potential, as we stand in our full greatness and be all that we're meant to be, we have a rebirth in our consciousness. And I was like, you know what? I think that's what is happening. I asked for the energy for me for today, but I feel like that's what's happening overall in both the diaspora and on the continent. There is a rebirth in consciousness. The ancestors are working through us, around us, trying to encourage those of us who are meant to, because they also understand destiny and that not all of their children are meant to come to an African practice. That's not meant for them. And that's okay. That's the destiny that Ori chose. But for the ones that are, they're calling. And some people are fighting. They're absolutely fighting it. So they're like, I don't want to do this. And that's okay because they don't know anything else. Fighting it makes sense because they don't know anything else. And my encouragement to you is if you have been hearing a call, you need to question why you won't answer. Your creator has multiple phones. Think of a switchboard system, multiple lines of communication. There is not only one way to get it done. So regardless of which religion, whether it's African or not, what practice, whatever, multiple lines, multiple ways to connect with the source of all. It's the source of all. Make it make sense to yourself. It's the source of all. Why would the source of all only have one way when all is source? It's the source of all. So all things are of source. Your creator may be saying, hey, I got a different phone number you can use if you want. You should try this phone number. Especially if you get drawn to people, you're like, I don't even know why I'm listening to this. Part of you does. Maybe you should ask that part. Don't ask the part that don't know. Ask the part that drew you to it. What was it? What resonated? Run with that. Maybe try to have a conversation with the person. Comment on the video. Reach out to the person. Do something to see, follow where your soul is calling you. You don't just watch it, like sit and watch a whole video and it's like, I don't resonate with none of this, but why am I still sitting here? Some part of you does. So go there and ask the questions. Like, oh no, answer to that devil worship. So grandma's the devil. Because that's what you just said. Grandma's the devil. Truth be told, if you are someone that is a believer that Yeshua, his name's not Jesus, and I just refuse to let you sit here, baby. That's not his name. That Yeshua was a living, breathing man who has since transitioned. He is an ancestor. Through and through. Ascended, elevated ancestor. Your entire practice is ancestral veneration. You're just not venerating your own. You're a Catholic and saints. These are all humans, ancestors, ancestor veneration. You're simply not venerating your own. President's Day, a day where you celebrate presidents that died, ancestor veneration. You are simply not venerating your own. You are constantly venerating ancestors. Every year, when so and so who passed away, you share their picture, ancestor veneration. You are simply not venerating your own. You are so hung up on the fact that it is different from what you grew up with, when you are supposed to be different than how you grew up. You're supposed to grow, not stay the same. Grow, learn. I am so grateful that I got parents that help read, learn, experience, be your goddamn self. Even if it is something they can't understand and they can't resonate with, there is a respect. And not one of my parents has ever called me evil. They're like, you're going to go to hell. Well, I mean, I grew up as an Israelite. There's no hell. And there's no hell. But there's just never been that. Do I wish certain members of my family I could have a deeper conversation with? Yes, I would love, love, love to have a family celebration of our ancestors. That's a dream that I pray that I see come to fruition. Just a family feast where we give offering. And let's talk about offerings. I told you I'm like stream of consciousness. I was thinking about this example earlier about offerings are not always simply you give something and leave it and pour something and that thing triggers offerings are an energy exchange, but they are also a tool, a guide for you in terms of getting that which you may be trying to desire, unless it's just simply I'm giving thanks. I'm gonna share some food. Like, I got tea. Yes, this is tea. I don't drink. And I don't like tea. But I got a cold. I make herbal teas when I have a cold, begrudgingly, but they help. So I decided to share some with my ancestors. I just shared some. It wasn't divine or anything. I made some tea and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna share some of my ancestors. I put some in the mug. I put it on my altar. That's what I did. But sometimes the offering is channel a message from spirit and share it. Why is it important? Because I am a medium and part of my business is about divining. So if I'm trying to generate more clients and income, and that means they need to see me do the thing that I do for my business, I need to channel more messages from spirit so that they can see me. I used to do it a lot more, and it comes up, that's my offering. Being myself is my offering. That's my echo. I be myself. I am asked to do things that align to who I honestly am. I might have to do candle work. And I'm like, why? Because the truest part of me is a witch. She enjoys doing magic. And that's what I'll get called to do. Tap into the you that is joyous in doing the things you love. I love doing it. I love doing divination. I love doing astrology. I love doing numerology. I love all of these things. And that will end up being my offering. My life is the offering. It is the moving prayer. Do I give food and things like that? Absolutely. But sometimes it's not simply about that. Sometimes it is about the steps that you have to take to get to the offering. And the example was in the Miranda Lagoon OD, there is an essay that talks about a man and a woman. The man wants a wife. The man wants a wife and does divination and is like, okay, you need to get these items. Okay, bet. The woman, I'm a husband, I'm a family, it's divination. You need these items. They need the same 3 items. So 2 of the items you can get like anywhere. So they get these 2 items, boom. But there's this one item that there's only this one place that you can get it. So one gets there first, and then the other one. And they're like, yo, I need that. And they're like, woman's like, I need that. Dude's like, but I need that. I need that. And they're both like, we need this. So who comes? Ashu shows up. And like, yo, I need this. I need to give this offering because I need a husband and, kids. And he's like, I need this because I need a wife. And Ashu's like, husband meets wife, wife meets husband. Let's go so you can be married. It was a mechanism. It wasn't about them giving the Evo. It was about them taking the steps to acquire the Evo. It was that expression of the energy that allowed them to come together. There was a faith and a trust this was going to work. So as they moved closer, the universe was like, okay, y'all are going to end up doing this on the same day at the same time. Bet. Move them into position so that they could give that last piece together and be married and then have a lot of children. There's one, I want to say it's a story about Obatala. And Obatala's getting ready to go on a journey. And I think I've heard this in like 2, maybe 3 different ways. Obatala's going on a journey. And in one, Obatala's wife is present and one not. I think in the one where Obatala's wife is present, Obatala does the Evo, and it has something to do with having multiple sets of white to wear. Actually, he may not have done the Evo on that one either. But you're supposed to have multiple sets of white to wear, and I don't do this. I'm not doing this, man. I'm not doing this. Had Obatala performed the Evo, Obatala would have been traveling with all these changes of clothes. So that way, every time something happened and Obatala's clothes got soiled or something, like, oh, I can put some clean clothes on. But that didn't happen. So now you're walking around with the dirty clothes and you don't even look like yourself because Obatala's what? All white. And now you looking dingy. And from what I know, and even I'm not even crowned Obatala yet, but that I don't like this white. It is not white enough for me. That kind of sensation, like that. So anybody seeing Obatala not with the white was like, who this cat is? Didn't even recognize him. Ended up being locked up. Somebody had to come get him out. Like, it's Obatala. Just and so from then, like doing the Evo and keeping the whites white, that was a thing. It wasn't simply about doing the Evo. Spirit was like, you're gonna go on this journey, it's gonna be dirty. So that you can maintain your same presence, have some extra clothes with you so you can put them joints on in case you get dirty. It wasn't simply about giving the Evo. This was a means to ensure success at the end game. So when it comes to our ancestral practice, it's not simply about always putting food on the altar. Like, really, what do you actually want as your offering? Yeah, I'm gonna share some food with you, but is there something I could be doing that is a true offering? Letting the inspiration guide you because it may not have anything to do with simply just for them, but something to align to your own elevation. Ancestral veneration is simply honoring and respect because you already know grandma's always going to say a prayer for you. Grandpa's always going to say a prayer for you. Your family, your friends, your love, even those ancestors who are not blood related to you, but are so closely tied to your energy, they're always going to want to do something for you. This is to thank you. Like, I appreciate it. This is, hey, I want to learn more about you. I want to learn about who you were. How does that relate to me and how I move in my life? What gifts do I have? So I don't want to only learn about the trauma. I know we got lineage that were enslaved. I know mothers were birthing children. I know these things. I know the things that I know because I knew you in life. Tell me about the blessings though. What skills did I get from you? Who the shamans are, who the root workers are. Do I have these gifts too? Does anybody dream walk like I did? Anybody dream walk like I do? Those are the kind of questions. And that's what your veneration practice can look like. Or it can simply be, son, I miss you. Because sometimes, some days, that is what it is for me, is I miss my son. And I just want him to know mommy loves him. Some days that's it. Some days I don't have a lot of this is the first Saturday in a while I've done divination. I don't usually do it on Saturday. Saturday's usually free flowing, like this video seems to have been. But sometimes I don't have those prayers or anything. I don't want to do that. That's not what I feel called to do. I just want to talk. I just want to talk. And sometimes I just want to listen. Some days I'm in the E5 mode. Some days I'm in astrology. Sometimes all days I'm me. All days I'm me. So understanding why you feel drawn to certain things, just pay attention. Like, at some point, you have to decide how limitless your creator is. And maybe somebody just sees another part of source that you don't. That's it. So, to my brothers and my sisters, both in and outside the diaspora, is it effective? Is it an Iwa Pele? Do you feel love and light when you connect with this person? Leave it there. Leave it there. Understand that your traditions are evolving and they're going to continue to evolve. It's not going to look anywhere the same as it did in 5 years, but is it effective? Are they a good steward of humanity? Are they moving in harmony with nature? That is the heart of our traditions and all that should truly matter. Everything else is simply a way to get medicine. And if the medicine is effective, leave it like that. That's it. Leave it like that. But we didn't do it that way, so that's your only argument. That really is not an argument. So we didn't have it. You don't live there. See how easy that is? It's so easy. It's easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Yes. Okay. I feel really relaxed now, which means I'm probably like at the end. I hope there was something in here that inspires you to ask questions of your head and your ancestors and what truths lie within you. I hope this encourages you to seek. Let me tell you how, when I sat down to start this, there's a tree right here outside this window, and the squirrel lives in it. So when I sat down to start, there was a squirrel, and it had disappeared, and it just showed back up as I'm ending. Ashe. Uh, but encourages you to expand and be respectful of others, understanding that their tradition is theirs. It does not have to be yours. This what I just heard turf wars. Like who's who would set you came through that way? Like, yo, like if like this whole what set you played, I'm initiated. I'm proud with such and such. And that's it. That's really all you need. You don't need to know nothing else. It's it. It. There is a reason you don't share your entire EFI name. It don't matter. That's not the only reason. That's just the reason I'm gonna say. It don't matter. You give what you give. So if you ask me, I'll tell you all pray. I'll tell you I got both hands. I tell you I fly. I tell you which divination tools I know how to use. That's all you need. Period. I'll even tell you what I initiated, but that's all you need. Period. Because nothing else is relevant. Nothing else is relevant. So, and I hope this empowers you in being you. Hope it empowers you to be you. Um, and is inspired action is talk. That's it. Hold a conversation with someone in a different tradition. No judgment. Just listen to learn. Listen to learn. Not to understand, to learn and be open. I hope that you enjoyed this. Please make sure you give it a like, share with some friends. They might need this message too. And take care. Bye.